There comes a time in life when you realize you're carrying too much. Worry, stress, fear, the weight of trying to figure it all out, fix it all, make it all work. You stay up late thinking about it. Wake up early trying to control it. And in between, your mind is running circles around problems you were never meant to solve alone. But can I tell you something? You were never meant to carry that weight. That weight belongs to God. And the moment you let go, the moment you surrender, something powerful happens. You step into a peace that doesn't make sense, a peace that overrides chaos, a peace that stands tall in the middle of the storm and says, I don't know how, I don't know when, but I do know who. See, the problem isn't just the burden itself, it's that you've been trying to handle something that was never meant to be handled by human hands. You were never designed to control everything. That battle in your mind, that struggle in your spirit, that pressure weighing you down, it's too big for you because it was always meant for God. And when you finally take your hands off it, you're not losing control, you're giving control to the one who already knows the end from the beginning. Think about it. How many times have you stressed over something that God already had worked out? You lost sleep over something he had already solved. You worried about a problem that never even made it past his promise. And yet we hold on. We try to force things into place, push doors open that were meant to stay shut, fight battles that were never ours to begin with, and then we wonder why we're exhausted. But the moment you step back, the moment you say, God, I can't, but I know you can, something shifts. Because now you're not just hoping, you're trusting. Now you're not just talking about faith, you're walking in it. And when you truly let God handle it, he doesn't just take the burden, he takes you higher. He doesn't just fix the situation, he transforms you in the process. Letting go isn't weakness. Letting go isn't giving up. It's an act of faith. It's saying, God, I trust your plan more than my own. I trust your timing more than my impatience. I trust your way more than my will. And when you do that, you're stepping into something greater than you ever imagined. Because the truth is, God's hands are stronger than yours. His wisdom is higher than yours. His plan is better than yours. And when he handles it, it's not just taken care of, it's taken to another level. So stop carrying what he already conquered. Stop holding on to what he already handled. Stop trying to do what only he can do. Release it. Surrender it. Let God. There are moments in life when things just don't make sense. You prayed, you planned, you prepared, yet somehow things didn't go the way you expected. Doors shut in your face. Opportunities slipped through your fingers. People you counted on walked away. And in that moment, the enemy wants you to believe that it's over, that you missed your chance, that God forgot about you. But what if I told you that what looks like a setback is really a setup, that what feels like rejection is actually divine redirection, that the very thing you thought was a loss is making room for something greater? See, we get frustrated when things don't go our way because we think we know what's best. We map out the plan, set the timeline, and expect everything to fall into place just as we envisioned. But God doesn't operate on our schedule. His ways are higher, his thoughts are greater, and his timing is always perfect. When God shifts something in your life, it's not to harm you, it's to position you. It's to align you with something beyond what you could ever imagine. Think about Joseph, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, locked up in prison. Everything in his life seemed to be going wrong. If you looked at just one chapter of his story, you would have thought God abandoned him. But what seemed like setbacks were really stepping stones leading him to the palace. What felt like loss was actually preparation for leadership. And when the time was right, the very thing that was meant to destroy him became the testimony that elevated him. Some of you are frustrated because the door you wanted didn't open, but what if God didn't open it because he had something better? What if he's protecting you from a path that would have led to disaster? What if the delay isn't denial, but divine alignment? You may only see the problem, but God sees the purpose. You see the obstacle, but God sees the outcome. And while you're worrying about what you lost, he's already preparing what's next. God never makes a move without purpose. If he allowed it, he's going to use it. If he shut a door, it's because it wasn't meant for you. If he delayed the promise, it's because he's making room for something greater than you expected. The job that didn't work out, the relationship that ended, the opportunity that fell through, what if all of it was God setting you up for something beyond what you prayed for? So don't let disappointment make you doubt. Don't let frustration make you forget who's in control. God is not punishing you. He's preparing you. He's stretching your faith, shaping your character, and aligning your steps. And when the right time comes, when his perfect plan unfolds, you'll look back and realize that everything happened exactly the way it was supposed to. Trust him. His plan is greater than yours. His way is higher than yours. And when you let him handle it, you will see that what you thought was a loss was really the beginning of your breakthrough. There comes a point when you have to realize that no matter how hard you push, no matter how much you stress, no matter how much you try to control things, your own effort will only take you so far. You can fight, you can strive, you can struggle, but there are some doors that won't open by force, only by faith. Some victories won't come because of your strength. See, faith is the key that unlocks what human effort cannot. It is the bridge between where you are and where God is calling you to be. But the problem is we're so used to trying to make things happen on our own that we don't know how to let God do what only he can do. We hustle, we push, we strategize. And when things don't work out, we get frustrated. We ask, God, why isn't this happening? Why isn't this moving? Why am I stuck? But could it be that God is waiting for you to stop trying to force it and start trusting him for it? Faith is not just believing that God exists. It's believing that he is actively working in your life, even when you can't see it. It's knowing that he is moving behind the scenes, orchestrating things in your favor. It's standing firm, even when everything around you says otherwise. When you operate in faith, you're no longer moved by what you see, you're moved by what you know. You know God is good. You know, his plans are perfect. You know that he never fails. And when you walk in that kind of faith, doors that were once locked begin to open. Look at the walls of Jericho. God told Joshua and the Israelites to march around those walls for 7 days. No weapons, no battering rams, no physical force, just faith. From the outside, it looked ridiculous. But on the 7th day, when they lifted their voices and put their faith into action, those walls came tumbling down. Not by might, not by power, and that's the power of trusting God. When you put faith over frustration, you begin to see doors open that you never even knocked on. You find yourself walking into opportunities you weren't qualified for, receiving blessings you didn't chase, overcoming obstacles that should have stopped you. Because when God is in it, when he is the one making the way, nothing can stand in your path. But here's the key, faith isn't passive. It's not just sitting around waiting for something to happen. Faith is active trust. It's moving forward even when you don't have all the answers. It's stepping out even when you don't see the full picture. It's believing that if God called you to it, he will bring you through it. So let go of the struggle. Stop trying to make things happen in your own strength. Release it, surrender it, trust that the same God who brought you this far is more than able to take you the rest of the way. Because when you let God handle it, faith will take you where striving never could. Fear is a weapon the enemy uses to keep you stuck, to make you second guess, to paralyze you with doubt. Fear will have you believing that things will never change, that you will never break through, that what you see right now is all there is. But the moment you stop feeding fear and start walking in faith, something shifts. Because fear thrives in uncertainty, but faith stands firm in the promises of God. Fear will tell you to retreat, but faith will push you forward. Fear will make you shrink back, but faith will make you step up. The enemy knows that if he can keep you afraid, he can keep you from moving. He knows that if he can fill your mind with worst case scenarios, you'll hesitate to trust God. But let me tell you something. Fear is a liar. It has no power except the power you give it. It's an illusion, a distraction, a tactic designed to keep you from stepping into everything God has for you. And the moment you recognize that, the moment you decide that you will not be ruled by fear, you begin to take back your... God did not create you to live in fear. He did not call you to walk through life timid, anxious, and afraid of what's next. He said, I have not given you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. That means the fear you feel didn't come from him. That means the anxiety that's trying to grip you doesn't belong to you. And that means the enemy has been lying to you about who you are and what you're capable of. Faith isn't just about believing for a blessing. It's about standing firm even when things don't make sense. It's about declaring victory even before you see it. When David faced Goliath, fear was everywhere. The entire army of Israel was paralyzed, trembling at the sight of that giant. But David wasn't moved by what he saw. He was moved by what he knew. He knew that God was bigger than the giant. He knew that the same God who delivered him from the lion and the bear would deliver him again. And because he stood in faith, Goliath fell. What giants are you facing? What battles are trying to intimidate you? What fears are whispering in your ear, telling you to back down? It's time to silence the voice of fear with the power of faith. When you stop worrying and start worshiping, fear loses its grip. When you shift your focus from the problem to the promise keeper, the atmosphere changes. Faith activates miracles. Faith moves mountains. Faith invites God into your situation. And when you choose to trust him over your fears, you give him room to work, room to fight for you, room to show up in ways you never expected. So stand firm, speak life, walk in confidence. Let fear know that it has no place in your mind, in your spirit, in your future. Because when you let God handle it, fear has no choice but to bow to faith. There is a difference between giving up and letting go. Giving up means you've lost hope, but letting go means you've placed your hope in something greater. It means you've decided to stop wrestling, stop striving, stop trying to control what was never yours to control in the first place. It means you've moved out of the way so God can step in and do what only he can do. So many of us hold on to things we were never meant to carry. We hold on to pain, hold on to worry, hold on to relationships that have run their course, hold on to plans that no longer align with God's purpose. And the tighter we hold, the more we struggle. We think that if we just try harder, push further, force things into place, somehow it will all work out. But there comes a time when you have to realize that your strength is not enough, that your wisdom is limited, that your efforts, no matter how great, can never produce what only God can. Letting go is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of faith. It takes faith to release what you don't understand. It takes faith to trust that even though things aren't going according to your plan, they are still unfolding according to His. It takes faith to believe that what feels like an ending is actually a new beginning. And that's exactly what God wants you to do, to trust Him beyond what you can see. Look at Peter. When Jesus called him to step out of the boat and walk on water, Peter had a choice. He could stay where it was safe, where it was familiar, where he was in control, or he could let go of logic, let go of fear, let go of comfort, and step into the unknown. And the moment Peter let go, the supernatural happened. He walked on water not because of his ability, but because of his faith. And as long as his eyes were on Jesus, he was sustained. That's what happens when you let go. You step into a realm where God carries you, where He sustains you, where He makes a way where there was no way. But the moment you take your eyes off Him and start trying to figure it out on your own, that's when the weight pulls you down. That's when fear creeps in. That's when you start to sink. But even then, oh, somebody needs to hear this. Even when you feel like you're drowning, even when you feel like you've lost control, even when you feel like it's too late, God's hand is still reaching for you. All it takes is one cry, one moment of surrender, one decision to say, Lord, I can't do this on my own. And He will pull you back up. So stop gripping what God is trying to release. Stop clinging to what He is calling you to let go of. Stop trying to force what was never meant to fit. Trust Him. Rest in Him. Because when you truly let go, that's when you make room for Him to show up and show out. And when God handles it, the outcome will always be greater than anything you could have done on your own. There is no battle that God has ever lost. No situation that has ever been too big for Him. No problem that has ever caught Him by surprise. When God steps in, victory is not just possible, it is inevitable. But the problem is we spend so much time trying to fix, control, and manipulate outcomes that we never give Him room to work. We stress over things we were never meant to handle. We worry about the outcome instead of trusting the one who already holds it in His hands. But when you let God handle it, something shifts. When you stop trying to figure everything out and start trusting that He already has, something breaks in the spiritual realm. Because God doesn't just solve problems, He transforms situations. He doesn't just bring you through, He elevates you in the process. He takes what the enemy meant for evil and turns it for good. Think about the Israelites at the Red Sea. They had Pharaoh's army behind them, the sea in front of them, and no way out. Fear was telling them to panic. Doubt was telling them to give up. But God had already made a way before they even knew they needed one. And when the time was right, He didn't just open the sea. He made them walk through on dry ground. He didn't just deliver them. He destroyed their enemy in the process. The victory wasn't just survival. It was total breakthrough. That's the power of letting God handle it. Because when He fights for you, the battle is not just won, it's finished. When He moves, He doesn't just do enough. He does more than enough. He doesn't just bring you out. He sets you up for greater. But the key is knowing when to step aside, knowing when to stop fighting battles in your own strength and start standing in faith. Some of you have been battling too long, fighting in your own mind, struggling in your own strength, trying to fix what only God can fix. And you're exhausted, not because the problem is too big, but because you've been trying to carry something that was never yours to carry. God is saying, if you would just put it in my hands, I will handle it. If you would just trust me with it, I will take care of it. If you would just release it, I will bring the victory. You don't have to beg God to move. He's already working. You don't have to figure out how. He already has a plan. You don't have to force it to happen. He will bring it to pass in His perfect timing. Your job is to trust. Your job is to stand. Your job is to worship while he works, to believe when it doesn't make sense, to declare victory even before you see it. Because when God handles it, the outcome is always victory. Not maybe, not hopefully, always. So stop fighting in your own strength and start standing in faith, because the battle is not yours.